Lant Says podcast, which you can hear wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, but you can also watch it live. Weeknights, we are shooting for 6 o'clock Central Time. Right now it is 6:28 Central Time. Today was the first day of the NFL's legal tampering window for free agency. This is a time where teams can officially negotiate with free agents that are available on the open market. And I'm not going to lie, I've been surprised by the reaction to the lack of action by the Houston Texans to this point. You guys, for the most part, aren't happy, which is understandable. You would like this rebuild to speed up. But rebuilds aren't done in free agency. Maybe a finishing piece is acquired that way, but you build a winner through the draft. You don't build it by going on spending sprees like the Commanders used to, like the Dolphins used to. You do it in the draft. And some of you are reacting far too crazily for my liking. So I feel like I got to sit you down. What have the Texans done to this point? Well, they added Robert Woods over the weekend, wide receiver, used to play for the Los Angeles Rams, played well there, began his career with the Bills. Didn't look so good with the Titans last season, though at the very least statistically he was decent. They signed him to a 2-year contract, which is what Nick Caserio has become famous for in his time with the Texans. And look, I like the move. It's not a bad move. It's not a great move, but nothing that the Texans are going to do in free agency this year is going to be that way. And you should have known that already. Maybe they decide to give Laramie Tunsil an extension. I think a lot of people are feeling better about the possibility of a Tunsil extension now that the Kansas City Chiefs gave Jawan Taylor a massive contract to play left tackle. No one's going to make the trade for Laramie Tunsil. But after that, there likely won't be anything short of a Brandon Cooks trade for like a mid to late draft pick. King of Twitch is joking with me. Can you read out every AFC South free agent pickup and the corresponding cap hit? I will hang up and listen. I don't want to put anyone to sleep. I just want people to settle the fuck down. I think it's better to say it like this. Here's who the Texans have signed. Case Keenum, quarterback. You might remember him having played for the University of Houston Cougars or playing for the Houston Texans a couple of years ago. Chase Winovich, a guy that I remember who played defensive end for the New England Patriots. Beautiful, long hair. Hassan Ridgeway, a defensive lineman. Fullback / tight end, Andrew Beck. Running back, Mike Boone. This time of year is not the time that the Texans are going to do anything. But there are some of you out there who are frustrated that Nick Caserio is just giving out 2-year contracts. The only way the majority of players are going to want to sign with the Houston Texans are if, one, they are a free agent that is up there in age that nobody wants, or if the Texans decide to pay them a loser tax like they did with Brandon Cooks, who is now immovable essentially, at least in terms of being able to trade him and getting something nice in return. Do you want more moves where the Texans go and sign a Lamar Jackson? Well, that's fun. That would be great. I actually would love to see them go out and take a big swing like that, especially in the wake of the news that we saw on Friday, where Ryan Poles actually did a really good job. I imagine there will be some Bears fans stopping by a little bit later. Ryan Poles did a hell of a job getting that swap that he got with the Carolina Panthers, a first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, and DJ Moore. But unless they're going after Lamar Jackson, this is what they should be doing. And I just don't know if you guys are going to be able to make it through the rest of this offseason with a full head of hair if you're going to fucking lose it every single time the Texans sign a Case Keenum. What's wrong with signing a veteran quarterback who's actually played in the league? This is what I can't get past me. Some of you people were celebrating Jimmy Garoppolo not going to the Texans. The contract Garoppolo signed with the Las Vegas Raiders, yes, seemed to have a lot of guaranteed money. It's basically a 2-year deal. The Raiders can get out of that one pretty easily. Yeah, there's a lot of signing bonus money. But would it not have been better to have Jimmy Garoppolo than any of the quarterbacks that we saw under center for the Texans last year? It would have been. If you want to watch this team every single Sunday, you want to have somebody who at the very least is competent. Davis Mills is not competent. Jimmy G would have been that. Case Keenum would have been that too. And it ends right there. Whoever the Texans draft, and they will take a quarterback with that second pick, C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young's going to be there. It seems like C.J. Stroud's the favorite to go first overall to Carolina. Seems like Frank Reich wants to have himself a tall, pocket-style quarterback. Okay, great. That means Bryce Young's available for you. You can take one. They're not going to pass on a quarterback with the second overall pick. I have a hard time buying into that. And I think a lot of people are of the belief that, oh, if you sign Jimmy Garoppolo, you're not going to draft the quarterback. No, you can still draft the quarterback, and that quarterback could beat Jimmy Garoppolo out in training camp. Same thing can happen with Case Keenum. It's probably more likely to happen with Case Keenum competing against him. Relax. Fucking lax. I gotta say, Houston sports fans today, on this March 13th, you're getting mad about some random AP voter that voted the University of Houston 7th, and you're getting fucking mad about this. Why? Free agency doesn't do shit. It doesn't. Some comments here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gallant says, I completely agree, Paul says, school's immortal. People are way overreacting on these signings. Yeah, they're not massive names, but there's no need to sign anyone worth a damn. We are a young team with little to no talent and a ton of draft capital. Yep, that's what it is. If you came this time of year to be entertained, sorry, like this isn't it. Go binge watch a television show. Last of Us is all the way done. It's a nice season finale. You've got, what's that other show? The Mandalorian. There's an episode out. Couple episodes out. You could watch You Season 4. The show about the serial killer / stalker guy. There's, what else is there? There's Sex Life, which I started watching. That show's fun. Like, there's other things. There's other things to do. Keski K says Tremaine Edwards, though. Okay, Tremaine Edmonds, who played for the Buffalo Bills last year, if I'm not mistaken, signed a massive deal to play with the Chicago Bears, which is kind of weird because they just had Roquan Smith. The largest 4-year contract for an inside linebacker in the NFL. 4 years, $72 million, 50 guaranteed. You want to pay that much for a middle linebacker that hits the open market? Have at it. That ain't smart. And if you know your Texans history, you'd know that they gave Bernard McKinney an extension that he didn't deserve. And they also gave Zach Cunningham an extension he didn't deserve. Don't lock up a ton of money into linebackers. Yeah, you want to have better ones than the ones that you have right now, but come on. The deal that Bernard McKinney signed with the Houston Texans, what was it? I think it was was it like 4 years? I want to say like $20 million or something like that. It wasn't a great deal. You could say the same thing about the deal that they gave to Zach Cunningham, who they ended up cutting. Like, yeah, it looks great. Nice move. But it's the Chicago Bears who made that move. And just because Ryan Poles was able to pull off that trade with Carolina doesn't make me feel like he knows what he is doing 100% of the time. You know, So relax, guys. Relax. You're taking this too seriously. This is not the time of year to really be paying that much attention unless you're really into free agents. But I'm sorry, guys. Like, this is something that you need to take a chill pill on. What do? Do you take tea before you go to bed at night? Need a little ganja? Maybe a shot? Todd the Show comments on twitch.tv/Gallant says, relax, Texans. It's a bad franchise. Yeah, there's that too. They might be heading in the right direction, though. You know, it might be getting better. I'm just telling you, though. This tweet that I saw from @MrMediocre_YT. Texans said they had a quarterback on the roster and needed to add 2 more. Well, now they've got Case Keenum, Davis Mills, and EJ Perry. And he says Will Anderson at 2 is the pick. Some of you guys take what is said to you by a general manager, a head coach, as fact when they're speaking in an interview setting or when they are at a podium speaking into a microphone. These fuckers lie all the time. I'm not saying that they lie every single time, but a lot of the time they are going to stretch the truth. What benefit do they get by telling you what they intend to do other than maybe getting you off their ass? That's it. Or, like Detective Dignam in The Departed, they just want to feed you shit and keep you in the dark, like a fungus. You're a mushroom. Shut the fuck up. Take what we get. They're not going to give you anything more than that. And some of you guys are like fucking Charlie Day and Always Sunny in Philadelphia, piecemealing a bunch of pieces of mail together while ripping sig after sig, and then putting up a massive chart on the wall because you're so jeeped up on caffeine trying to deduce what these guys are going to do. Just sit back and watch and realize that it ain't going to happen for another like 5 to 6 weeks. Fuck, man. KSKK said, you could have had Ramsey, at least as a mentor to Stingley and Petrie, not to mention he's a badass, cheap trade, and again, that money wasn't going anywhere, apparently. Okay, I mean, you could have given Jalen Ramsey, check that, you could have tried to make a trade with the Los Angeles Rams to get Jalen Ramsey, but David Mulugheta made that trade happen. The Rams didn't have much leverage. They would have gotten more than the 3rd round pick. And the other thing is, too, that Ramsey's going to want an extension immediately. I got to say, I'm not sure Ramsey's still the player he used to be. And you don't trade for a guy for him to be the babysitter of a younger player. That is another misnomer that constantly gets brought up in the NFL. Some guys are willing to do it. But Jalen Ramsey wanted to go play for a contender, clearly. And I imagine, okay, I'm in LA. I would like to go to Miami. Not too shabby to go there, too. So you think to yourself, yeah, the Texans could have done that. But you got to remember where they are and how they are viewed by the majority of the league. Yeah, they hired DeMeco Ryans, and there's a new car smell for us. But for the majority of people out there, they're looking at this like a shit sandwich. Jeffrey Smith on youtube.com/Paul Gallant. We don't need to spend money on free agents like we're going to a Super Bowl anytime soon. Let other teams do that. Yes. Ian Lindblom. Paul, you still listening to 610 or something? No, I'm just looking at my fucking timeline. I don't know. Am I bad at this now? Because I don't have the energy to dive headfirst into every little fucking breadcrumb that's out there. And I'm swearing a lot on this episode. I probably should tone it down a little bit. But Jesus. Come on. They're going to make moves in the draft, and that's when you should start paying attention. Right now, sit back. If you are looking for more than what you are getting right now, you're asking for too much. And you're also getting mad over signing Jimmy Garoppolo or Case Keenum. And again, the quarterbacks that were on this team last year were fucking awful. They were bad players. Keski K says, why don't you listen to 610 anymore? There's certain shows I listen to on 610. I don't do it a lot though. I generally listen to podcasts. You want to know what my podcast selection is? I might get canceled for some of these podcasts that I listen to. And what do we got? The Around the NFL podcast. That one's fun. Bill Simmons, Bomani Jones, Pardon My Take, Adam and Dr. Drew, Conan O'Brien, You Up, Tim Dillon, Joe Rogan. Yeah, listen to a lot of different things. Oh, what else do we have here? Twitch.tv/Gallant says, I had to remember. King of Twitch, Houston, Texas. Isn't this a World Baseball Classic chat? I don't even know if there's a World Baseball Classic game on right now, King of Twitch. I suppose I should start watching them and just try to make, I don't know, comments entirely based off of like countries and try to talk shit about whatever two countries are playing that aren't the United States. We'll put a boot in their ass and they will sell there. What else was I going to dive into? And by the way, in case you want to watch the World Baseball Classic, it's on Fox Sports 1. I don't want to fall asleep quite yet. I don't want to quite do that. What do we got? Oh, yeah. I touched on this at the end of my radio show. And if you have any questions about Texans free agency, please ask them. I'm telling you right now, calm down. The Case Keenum move, that's a good one. Chase Winovich, that's a good one. The other guys, not really consequential. I would like them to give Laramie Tunsil an extension. They should give whatever left tackles they have on roster as much money as they want, given they need that guy to protect whoever they draft. I would imagine they're working on an extension. Maybe they're not. Maybe Nick Caserio ends up being much like Bill Belichick was dealing with Robert Kraft in New England. Maybe he's a little bit cheap. And Kraft is a little bit cheap. But I think right now, you just got to settle down. This is not the year that they're going to make a big time move in free agency or make a big splashy trade. I'd love them to do it with Lamar Jackson. But some people are like, oh, well, they're going to go after Jimmy Garoppolo and not Lamar Jackson. Oh, they're going to go after Case Keenum and not Lamar Jackson. It's a false equivalency. One of those things is more realistic for them to get and doesn't involve them giving up a lot of assets. QQ says Titus needs to get extended, or unless it's KKK. Wait, hang on. Did I just say something aloud that I shouldn't have said? Was that the whole point? Was that an inside joke? Shit. I had no idea you were so vulgar, he says. Yeah, I probably should tone it down. It's been a while since I've done one of these. But this is probably going to be the new time where I do the show. Around 6:30. Ian Lindblom on youtube.com/PaulGallant. I don't think anyone watches the Texans thinking things are going to get better. It's more like watching the Jersey Shore. You kind of like the people, but you watch them to watch them fail and laugh. I'd rather not watch if that's what's going on. I think there's a misnomer about people that work in sports radio like we want to see car crashes. I don't. I know I'm good at talking about the car crash, but I actually don't want to see the car crash. I'd rather see a competent product on the field every single week and make my criticisms on a weekly basis and hopefully not have my bosses can me for being too negative. I touched on this earlier today on the actual radio show. And that makes sense. Case KK. It means what the what in Spanish, not the KKK. Yeah, that makes sense. Listen, sometimes I'm just reading these things aloud, and what I hear is obviously different than what I see. I didn't know if it was a prank. Mike Bui says, terrible free agency so far. Patriot way when Nick was at New England. What's your thoughts on them going for Will Levis over Bryce or CJ? No, that's my thoughts. No, I don't want Will Levis. I want a good quarterback. I think Levis is more of a project than Anthony Richardson because Richardson is more gifted athletically. Word Deuce on youtube.com/PaulGallant. Any truth to the rumors that Carolina may be in the market to move the number 1 pick? They are fucking bozos if they're trying to move that pick after trading for it. I saw a couple of reports about that. maybe somebody else is going to trade up a massive haul to get to that spot from further back in the draft. Maybe that's what they're thinking, and that means that they could also get a massive haul like the Bears just got. But look, the Bears swapped first-round picks, got another first-round pick, got 2 seconds, and they got DJ Moore. Is someone going to offer that much after a trade just happened? I'm pretty skeptical about that. Jeffrey Smith, could we trade for Lamar Jackson? You could, but would you? I want to because it would be fun, but that's not operating like a smart organization. Case, KK, Paul, what free agent do you want brought in? I was hoping for Kareem Hunt or David Montgomery to back up Dameon Pierce. That would have been badass. I don't know about Kareem Hunt. I don't trust that guy at all. David Montgomery would have been interesting. I'm really bummed out that all of the running backs ended up getting franchise tagged. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard. I would have liked any of them. Mike Boone is certainly not making it move. I think that the idea that the Texans probably have is that they're going to draft another guy in this year's draft class, and that would mean that they phase Dare Umbungawale out, and I would imagine Rex Burkhead too. CJ Stroud and JSN, or Lamar Jackson and Will Anderson. I got to be honest. I don't even know who the hell JSN is. JSN. Oh, Jackson Smith. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. Guys, I don't fucking know. If you're going to try to ask me about draft prospects, like, I don't know. I'm not in it for the draft stuff until after the guy's here. I really am not. Like, if you're looking for draft previews, most people are talking out of their ass when they make them. Even the people that watch film of these guys. I don't know. You know? I'd rather have all the picks and that the Texans pick who they want. How about that? What a take. Good job, Paul. You're incredible. And I also just don't want to have a boss that fires me for being too negative. That's what happened in the place where I used to work. The place where I had my first radio job, Syracuse, New York. ESPN Radio Syracuse personality Brent Axe was told yesterday that his On the Block with Brent Axe radio show was taken off the air and that he's not a member of Galaxy Media Partners, which is the company that owns that. In a rare move, instead of acting like the guy never fucking existed, which is what most people in radio do when they fire someone. That's happened to me twice, both here in Houston and in Seattle. Someone's gone, he never existed. Scrubbed from the records. You can't find any of their stuff. This person decided to do an interview about it, and my God, I really think he should have thought this one through. Said Ed Levine, the show had become too negative towards Syracuse University sports. Quote, I had a problem with the content of the show. I'm an SU fan. I'm sorry, but I bleed orange. I'm not going to apologize for that. And I think a fair reading of the orange is appropriate. He also mentions that Galaxy has a business relationship with Syracuse and that Boeheim and him are personal friends, and he's an investor in the company. This is what I hate about corporate media. The tendrils of corporate interests that insert themselves into controlling content end up making the content worse. I would point to news media and what we've dealt with over the last couple of years with news programs sponsored by pharmacy companies advising you to get a vaccine created by a pharmacy company. When you think about all the special interests that go into a news show, you do wonder what actually is going to make the cut and be broadcast on the air. I'm not saying that everything is censored, but there are certain areas that you don't go. And if you're somebody who works at a flagship station, I used to, both in Seattle, it was the flagship station of the Seahawks and the Mariners, and here in Houston, I worked at the flagship station for a moment of the Rockets, who were unbelievably sensitive with any story that came out about them that was remotely negative, including things factual like TV ratings are down for a team that's not that interesting, or for the Houston Texans. And I got to say, during my time at 610, I did not get much flack when I decided to go after the team, and I would crush them. Now, maybe it was because I was on at night. Maybe no one was listening to me. Honestly, I don't know. But I only know one way to talk about a team that I cover on a daily basis. Just to be brutally honest and somewhat elitist, because I grew up a Patriots fan and I have a high standard for everything. It's not to say that I'm a perfectionist, but I see the negative more often than I see the positive. I highlight it. I try to be fair about it. But the problem is, you're starting to see more and more in the sports world. Flagship stations start to censor and reel back in what their hosts say. And when you see that on a regular basis, maybe these stations do have a little bit of extra credibility, but isn't it so obvious as to why more and more people are turning away from traditional media? Forget about the fact that you can't even listen to me use my beautiful language of swears on the radio when you're listening to me on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Think about it from if I was working at a partner flagship station that I wouldn't be able to say certain things. And there was one station that I worked for where one day I was out at practice and I remember seeing a back and forth jokingly between a player and a head coach. The coach told the player to bleep off in a playful manner. I tweeted about it because I thought it was a funny story. Next thing I know, I was getting yelled at by head of PR and then eventually my program director. And all of that stuff went down, and I just started thinking to myself, I did nothing wrong in this situation. I listened to what the boss told me. But if this is what it's going to be like for a story about somebody playfully cussing at practice, how much worse is it going to get 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now? And I don't understand how at Syracuse University, when the basketball team is doing bad, how they think it's good for continuing to get people to listen to lie about what's in front of them. Anyone who's been to Syracuse University recently, you would fucking see that the team has not been good for the last couple of years. By their own standards, the standards that they created for themselves by being a Final Four team twice in the past decade, but also before that, routinely being around number 1 or in the top 10 for a couple of years. That was when I was at school. All of a sudden you stop being that and the head coach gets older and he's a cantankerous douche that's done things off the court that at the very least make you scratch your head about how he has so much power in this dying Rust Belt town. You'd think, okay, well maybe some criticism is warranted here. He had an assistant coach. That person had a track record. Bernie Fine. Look it up for yourself. Look up about Jim Boeheim getting in an accident with a pedestrian and that pedestrian passing away. There's a lot of things that you can chalk up in addition to the fact that the program has sucked. And something I talked about on the air last week. Look, if you're a nice guy all the way through, when you're in a position of power, people are going to give you the benefit of the doubt for a little bit. But when you're just an asshole and you constantly complain and whine about everything like Jim Boeheim has, it's going to change the way people remember you eventually. And when you are eventually ousted, there aren't going to be maybe many people that are trying to defend you. But now all of a sudden you're seeing that the university that hired him is so sensitive about criticism that's being made on the local airwaves about the team that they're getting rid of the guy that's doing it. Who the fuck's going to want that job now? It's not a dream job to work in Syracuse, New York. It's a pit stop. And Brent Axe, who I have a great deal of respect for, has been there for a really long time covering that team, along with the Buffalo Bills. Who else is going to step in and actually get people to listen on a level that Brent Axe did? And who's going to want to step in either? Yeah, you might get some people out of college that step in, but the credibility is going to be gone. You're not going to have had someone who's been there for like 30 years. Oh, he was a little bit too critical. I got to say, in listening and reading his comments, that guy's fair, a lot more fair than I've been, covering some absolute disasters, especially considering the way that program's looked over the last couple of seasons. And I went there, and I've been calling for Jim Boeheim to get fired amongst friends privately for like 5 years. So it bums me out. It really does. And I think it's just getting worse. You know, you have partnerships between radio entities, television entities, and teams, and it leads to less criticism, and it leads to them throwing more bullshit in your face. And I guess, like, truth tellers like me can expose it all for you. But, thing is, these entities are pretty damn good at silencing the critics and then having them be forgotten altogether. But that story bummed me out, seeing that today on my drive into work. So I feel for Brent Axe, and I feel for the people of Syracuse. You don't have a true person that's covering the team that can be objective and critical now. What comments do we have? YouTube.com/Paul Gallant, Twitch.tv/Gallant says, dude, your eyebrows and no beard are tripping me out. Yeah, I got rid of it. I wanted to look younger. Not gonna lie. Hasn't been working out so well in the dating world. I had a disastrous date on Friday. I'm thinking about talking about it on the radio tomorrow. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus or anything like that. And I also don't want to sound like a giant drama queen spilling the details of my personal life on the air the way that I used to. Because I think at some points people get annoyed, they tune out. But Jesus, what a terrible date that was this past Friday. So yeah, I was trying to, look a little bit younger. So maybe I can, pursue people who are a little bit younger. Fuck, I'm sorry. Young people are hot. But I mean, obviously if they're like 24 or older. That's going to be used against me someday, isn't it? Mike Bui, Patriot Way. Nick doesn't draft first-round picks for wide receiver. The West Coast offense is about shifty, agile possession receivers. So Jackson Smith, I can't pronounce his name. Doesn't seem likely. I'm not going to lie. I just see the letters around there, and I'm like, nope, not going to do it. Don't want to do it. Case KK says, fuck the Patriot way. When are people going to realize that it's Bill Belichick's way? He made them what they are, and TB12, but y'all get it. Well, there's nothing wrong with trying to copy what a team did. There's nothing wrong with trying to copy what a successful team did for years. I don't get that. Twitch.tv/Gallant says, YouTube would demonetize you if you got big enough. Oh, yeah, for swearing? Yeah, I'll work on the swearing. But every now and then, you got to swear every now and then. Ooh, Jeffrey Smith is helping me out here. I appreciate that. Jackson Smith in Jigma. Jackson Smith in Jigma. Jackson Smith in Jigma. There is this YouTube account that used to try to pronounce NFL names. And I think one of them was Jairus Bird. Jairus Byard. And I don't know why that's still stuck in my head, but it is. Anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in for today's episode of the Gallant Says podcast. There will be a podcast version of this later. We're going to do this thing starting at 6 o'clock Central Time going forward. Gives me a little bit more energy and a bit of time to unwind after the show. Also, I get the show done before any games start. Going to be fun the next couple of days as we wrap up the week. We will talk sports. We will talk more than sports. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. And relax about the Texans in free agency, guys. Relax. Okay? This ain't the time. Draft time, if they don't get a quarterback, okay. I'll pick up the pitchfork. I'll pick up the torch. And we'll go to town. But right now, relax. So long, farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful Monday. We'll be back at it tomorrow.